There's now a global energy crisis, but this was occurring before that war. The war certainly exacerbates it, and it particularly makes people aware of Europe's weakness and Europe's dependence on Russia. But essentially what you've had is we have a couple decades of kind of the freest, most developed parts of the world saying we're against fossil fuel investment, we're against fossil fuel production, we're against fossil fuel transportation. You take, many have probably heard of, we have the Keystone XL pipeline in the United States. So this was this pipeline that provides a very vital type of oil for our refineries in the US from Canada. And yet this thing has been delayed for over 10 years, and it got effectively canceled by President Joe Biden as soon as he took office. But even before then, it was impossible to build a pipeline. You used to be able to build a pipeline in like 2 years in the United States. So, and he shut down leasing on federal lands. So, you know, we have huge amounts of federal lands and waters, and he said no more new leases for oil and gas and for other minerals and that kind of thing. So this is just a microcosm of what's been going on for 2 decades. So what you have is a rising need for fossil fuels, and yet a large part of the world, particularly the most developed world, is restricting its ability. Now, during the pandemic, what happened is, because people were locked down, they weren't doing much, and so demand fell. Oil prices fell, as I think everyone in the industry is very aware. But there was this idea, there were some leading people saying they'll never rise again. But it was just because there was an artificially suppressed demand. But then what happened when demand came up again is that the industry had been really gutted and really disincentivized. And so much of the world, particularly the developed world, did not produce as much as it could. And so you have higher prices, and then we have the situation with Russia and Ukraine, and then there's a huge disruption there. I mean, that's and where people are saying, especially like, we don't want to use Russian oil, we don't want to use Russian gas. You become super aware, but this was all preventable, because what we did is we artificially restricted the supply of fossil fuels on the false promise that solar and wind could replace it. And you see, even just pursuing that net zero agenda a little bit has caused a global energy crisis. And I think this is a warning to all of us. The world is waking up, I think.